Hello and welcome to Merlin's Miniatures. This is the final part of Project Baneblade. Now, if you've stuck with us from the start, thank you very much. We were going to do this as a 4-parter, but we changed it to a 3 just because when we put the vote to you about the weathering, most people wanted it to be only just slightly more weathered than how we left it in part 2. So we didn't want to sort of drag it out and do it over 2 videos. So we condensed video 3 and video 4 into one for the big reveal. So thank you very much. Let's get to the video. So we're going to start by taking this weathering a little bit further. We're going to start with a little bit of rust. And for something like this and for vehicles, Dirty Down's rust is a massive help. It really takes a lot of the headache out. There are a few things you need to be aware of when you use this. Essentially, the ingredients in it that make this so effective like to get all clogged at the bottom, and it does have like a mixing ball in it, but you really do have to shake it like mad and, you know, really loosen all of that stuff together. A nice little tip that I was told about this is just heat the bottom of it to help mix it round. You can do this by sitting it in a, sit the bottom of it in a warm cup of water for 5 minutes. I like to use the old massage gun and go crazy. Alternatively, you can get a cocktail stick in it and just give it a little zhuzh round as well. But yeah, that's how you get it going. But when it's going, this stuff is fantastic. And it really does sort of activate with the air really quick. And you can do all sorts of interesting things like once you've applied it, for instance, you can dip your brush in a bit of water and sort of go over it and reactivate it. And it sort of creates these nice organic looking rust patches. You've probably seen there's so many videos out there on this product, but it really is effective, and it is a little bit magical what's in this pot. I'm also going to start using some enamels and oils and sort of grimy stuff. I'm going to keep it super basic though. I'm going to use AK Interactive Streak and Grime and AK Interactive's Rust Streaks. Both of these work in the exact same way. I'm applying them neat, and I will come back in with a bit of white spirit on a brush and just sort of feather them away to make them look very pretty, nice and natural, and create some interesting effects. And this is where I'm coming in with a little bit of thinner on my brush, and I'm just sort of feathering out that enamel. And as you can see, it really does look cool and organic. So I'm just going to go around the whole mini where I've been adding this and just feather it out and add some nice rust, see how we're looking, and then decide whether I want to add more. I'm also going to come in with a trusty makeup sponge egg and just also use that to sort of start wicking away and just sort of move it around so it has that dusty element to it as well. Thank you so much for sticking with us on Project Baneblade. If you joined us from part 1 to now, thank you. It is greatly appreciated, and it's been an absolute wicked project to be part of, with people voting on how we want it to look, and that is something we are hoping to carry on with the projects going forward. So one of the things we wanted to do was add a little bit of interest by giving this tank a big old shell that it was firing. So I whipped out the 3D printer and I had a little look online, and if you don't know, I think they're called Deadly Print Studio, probably one of the most well-known companies that do all sorts of interesting effects for your miniatures, whether it be, shells firing, explosions, magic effects. They do everything. I'll make sure I put a link in the description below because they are fantastic, and I believe they sell the physical models as well as STLs, so you can sort of cover both bases. Now, apologies for the footage on this. I've been redesigning the studio, so my airbrush booth isn't on the desk, and where I was airbrushing this, I wanted to put it in the booth for just, safety reasons, but it means that I didn't necessarily get the best footage. So all it is using fluorescent orange and fluorescent yellow inks and just spraying it like a zenithal highlight, and then just, letting it dry. If you really wanted to push this, once you're at this stage, you could come back in with the white and then apply the yellow to add that really sort of bright core. But I'm not going to do that. This is going to look super effective for what we want. And as this is drying, you can see it starts to sort of matte down a little bit. I've made the shell a nice brass color, and then I'm going to come in and just add some sort of stippling and dry brushing of black, mainly just to make it look a bit more smoky and charred. If you'd be interested in seeing like a full video on sort of smoke effects and explosion effects, happy to do it, and I'll make sure it's all set up properly. So I picked up these big old foam sheets as a base. Now I know most of this is going to be taken up by a tank, but still I wanted to completely cover it, keeping it really simple. Now if you've not used this stuff before, you can use it for all sorts of scenery. You can cut it up, you can shape it quite nicely. It's very easy to use, and it also takes sort of texture really well. So, as you can see, I'm hitting with my fingers here and making little moon-like divots. You can roll a rock over it. You can do so much to add texture. But I know I'm going to probably put texture paint on at this point. So essentially for this bit, all I was doing was looking around the objects on the desk and just seeing what it would give me, in case that sort of sparked any inspiration for how I wanted this sort of base to look. Nothing really screamed out at me, but I still kept pushing things down. So I thought, I'm just going to use good old-fashioned texture gel. Now I always use a primer mixed in with this because, it's just habit. No matter what my surface is, whether it's wood, foam, leather, anything, everything's got to be primed for adhesion, because otherwise X amount of months time you start getting flaky paint and no one wants that. So I'm using Golden's heavy gel, which is a matte finish, but that doesn't really matter, mixed in with some acrylic airbrush primer. Now once that's all done and dry, I will be using just your standard, earthy brown texture paint, and I'm just going to slap this on the top of the base and then just have a very sopping wet brush just to sort of make it go further, because you could waste a lot of your material on this, and just essentially paint the entire base. Nothing too fancy about this. As I say, it's mostly taken up by the tank, but I just want to give it something, So, pigment powders. I essentially used a little bit of pigment fixer mixed in with a powder to make it more of like a wash consistency. I do this quite a lot because as it dries, it sort of separates back to the powders and it's really stuck down. I always use it up in a little plastic shot glass, like these little disposable things. Touch water as well, so it isn't just like smelly fixer, and literally just apply that all over. And I do that with 2 different types of brown and then just let it go. So once I'd done this and called it complete, I knew the sides were going to look a little bit rubbish. So the massive geek that I am, I love a gadget, and for at-home projects and at work, I have a lovely handy laser cutter that I decided to do some wooden sides for this base and to give the front a nice engraving to make it look like an Imperium sort of transport, cargo sort of thing. Called it Project Baneblade, put the old Imperial Aquila on it, and gave it a quick stain with some Agrax Earthshade just to, dull it down a bit. And with that finished, I'm going to call Project Baneblade done. So, let's get to the reveal, shall we? So for the reveal, Merlin's Miniatures found an original Epic 40,000 Baneblade, and I just thought I wanted to paint up the smallest version of the model to go along with the biggest. Apologies for that, but I think it looks so cute and they look great together. Now, the next project. I can't tell you exactly what it is yet, but I'm going to give you a little hint and a few of you can try and guess what is in this box. I'm going to show you the box and tell you a little bit about it. So this is the box. It is bigger than the Baneblade one. It's over twice the size of the Baneblade box and probably over twice the size model-wise. Now this will be the biggest thing I've ever painted to date. This thing is massive and it's going to be a big old task, but an incredibly fun one, and I feel privileged to tuck into this. Now this model came out in 1989, so it's a little bit younger than me. But yeah, have a guess. Let us know in the comments what you think's in this box, but all will be revealed when we start working on it.